Dear students, the topic for today's discussion is concerning thyroid disorders in children, and among them hypothyroidism is far more common and important compared to hyperthyroidism. Hence, we will discuss it. I am Professor Akmal Laik, as Professor of Pediatrics from Akhtar Saeed Medical College. As we start our talk, let me define the main objectives to be achieved. We set forth the targets at the beginning. The first objective would be that as a graduate learning pediatric, we must understand how important the thyroid diseases are in children. Children are special. They're not like little adults. They have their own profile of disease as a result of thyroid dysfunctioning. So you will understand and appreciate that it is such an important condition in children. We should know how the thyroid disorder present in children, the clinical features, the physical signs on examination that you can detect and immediately come to the suspicion of a hypothyroid state in that child. Third, we should have a background adequate theoretical knowledge of what are the primary disorders that cause hypothyroidism in children. Next, how should we make ourselves a good clinician by making an early diagnosis, and what are the principles of treatment? The treatment is very simple, very cheap, easily available, and life-saving. So we should know it wherever we are working, at a primary level, secondary level, tertiary care level. We must know how to treat a patient of hypothyroidism. And finally, especially important in children is the preventive strategy. That is, we do not wait for the disease to clinically manifest and then we make a diagnosis. No, we are very late at that time. We must learn the strategies in the form of newborn screening programs to help make us a diagnosis of hypothyroidism before the patient is become symptomatic and clinically diagnosed. So that we will learn it in the preventive strategy. Right. So let's start the discussion by giving you a case history that we have seen a baby boy brought to us in the pediatric OPD at 1 month of age. The baby is born to a primigravida mother after a term pregnancy. It was a normal delivery, uneventful, with an adequate birth weight of 3.5 kg. The baby had a spontaneous cry and was active at birth and started breastfeeding very well and then sent home. He passed urine and stool with a normal bowel habit to begin with. Well, the mother is very upset because she has noticed the baby has become yellow, discolored, that they commonly called as pilia, which means the yellow discoloration of the face, of the skin, of the eyes, of the urine. She first noted this yellow tinge on the 5th day of life, and then the mother noticed that it spread to the trunk. The extremities were okay, but it persisted. She was told it would clear within a week's time, but it continued and didn't didn't vanish. Then she also complained that baby is having noisy breathing with some breathing difficulty starting from 15 days onward. Make a noisy breathing sound heard during breathing and during swallowing. Initially, she passed stool normally for one few days, but then the parents also noted that she has become constipated with passing infrequent stools every fourth day. The mother has strived, and the parents have received multiple suggestions, and they have tried them, like exposure to sunlight, like giving them glycerin suppository for relief of constipation, like giving some guti, and like giving some honey for her chest complaint, but didn't work at all. And with these symptoms, she was brought at the age of 1 month in the pediatric OPD. Well, she was examined thoroughly by the doctor regarding the vital signs and physical measurements. The baby weighed 4 kg at birth, 4 kg at 1 month, with a 50 centimeter length and head circumference at 37 centimeter. This is the photograph of the baby shown to you. You can obviously see the yellow color all over from the face, trunk, and upper extremities. On examination, she had a large anterior fontanelle, and the posterior fontanelle was also patent. The baby looked having coarse facial feature with a broad nose, with hairy forehead, with protruding tongue, with some noisy breathing and somewhat difficult swallowing. He had a yellow mottled skin. There were conducted sound in the chest, but the respiratory rate was 40 per minute. The baby has a protuberant abdomen labeled as pot belly with an obvious umbilical hernia, and when the baby was given breastfeeding, we found that the baby was sucking very slowly with making a lot of gurgling sounds. Well, with that history and with these examination findings, we should suspect a particular condition. Well, you will keep your suspicion, you will write it, and then we'll discuss it at the end of my lecture. First, let's educate ourselves about this important condition. Regarding congenital hypothyroidism, it is very rightly said that if you study all the causes of mental retardation, some are preventable, some are not. So among the preventable causes, this one is the most common and the most important cause of preventable mental retardation. So that makes it an extremely important for us to make a prompt diagnosis and prompt treatment if you want to prevent lifelong misery of mental retardation. To begin with, regarding the knowledge of thyroid gland, its anatomy, you all remember that it's basically a very important endocrine gland situated at the root of the neck and encircling the trachea on either side, having 2 lobes and which are well connected in the midline, supplied a very rich supply of thyroid arteries and encircled in pretracheal fascia. So whenever the larynx moves upward, thyroid gland essentially moves upward. It's a very important clinical skill. Coming to physiology, there is on the one side you find a sketch showing that there is a normal thyroid gland under the control of pituitary, secreting thyroid stimulating hormone, which acts on the thyroid gland from where thyroid hormone is secreted, primarily as T4. It goes to the cell. It goes to all structure, all tissues of the body and regulate their body function. However, T4 is then converted at the peripheral level into T3, which is very much physiologically active hormone at the peripheral level. In the condition called congenital hypothyroidism, either thyroid gland is missing, not developed, it is misplaced wrongly at wrong location, is very small, or not making hormone. It leads to a condition called hypothyroidism. So thyroid gland and its hormone affect at multisystemic level, and the deficiency leads on to multiple health and growth problems. Now this is a sketch showing the physiologic control pathways of thyroid hormone. Right at the top is hypothalamus, which secrete thyrotropin releasing hormone. This acts on the pituitary, and the pituitary secretes thyrotropin or thyroid stimulating hormone, acting via the bloodstream. It reaches the thyroid gland where it causes release of T4 and D3. So that becomes the hypothalamic pituitary thyroid axis. The newborn baby has its own axis. It is not dependent on the mother's thyroid hormone. So baby has its own system of thyroid control and thyroid secretion. So well understood from the knowledge of physiology that once T4 and T3 are released, they have a negative feedback on the secretion of TSH and negative feedback on the secretion of TRH. So there's a very well precise control of thyroid secretion in the body. Now, what causes hypothyroidism congenitally? Well, the most common causes are something like 85% causes are which we labeled as thyroid dysgenesis, implying that either there is no thyroid hormone at all, agenesis or aplasia, or a very small atretic hypothyroid, hypoplastic hypothyroid, or a misplaced ectopic thyroid gland either at the root of the neck, inside the mediastinum, in the tongue, or anywhere in the neck, is ectopic thyroid gland, but it will not functioning well. So these three important causes are labeled as, grouped as thyroid dysgenesis, and they make up something like 85% causes. Usually it is sporadic, and sometimes it is hereditary as well. However, the condition is very common, and something like 1 out of 3,000 to 4,000 babies are having this problem. Then we have another important group of causes which are called disturbances of the thyroid hormone secretion, like synthesis. These are the various hormonogenesis, dyshormonogenesis, like there are so many metabolic steps involved in T4 synthesis, like iodine trapping, iodination, and then synthesis of the TBG. So all of them are various inborn errors of T4 synthesis, secretion or utilization. So something like 15% of the hypothyroid congenital cases are because of these metabolic errors. The third important cause remain when there is a deficiency of iodine in a community called endemic cretinism. There are certain areas in the world which are having deficiency of iodine in the food, in the water. So there babies are born, the mothers are deficient in iodine, and the babies are born with congenital hypothyroidism, and they develop a typical picture of endemic cretinism. The fourth and the least common cause are when there is transient hypothyroidism because of some maternal condition, like mother has autoimmune thyroiditis, mother has Graves' disease. In that case, the baby will be affected inadvertently. Again, the same message that if you want to study the causes of permanent congenital hypothyroidism, the most important causes are something like thyroid dysgenesis in 85% of cases. If there is thyroid dyshormonogenesis, that is, hormone is not being synthesized and secreted, it makes up around 15% cases. And sometimes there is defect in the pituitary or hypothalamus defect. They do not secrete TSH or do not secrete TRH. In that case, baby develops secondary hypothyroidism, also called central hypothyroidism. Now, this is a photograph of a baby which shows very obviously that there is a bilobed swelling in the neck which resembles a thyroid gland but which is enlarged thyroid gland. The other photograph is of the same baby on the front, and that shows baby having features of hypothyroid, a typical facies. So this baby has a goiter and this baby has hypothyroidism. Both of them are coexisting in one case. Now this condition is basically as a result of defect in the hormone synthesis. There are many metabolic steps involved in the thyroid hormone synthesis, like iodine trapping, like iodination, deiodination, like coupling, like storage, like secretion, like release. So any defect anywhere can produce a dyshormonogenesis, and the condition is in front of you. This is the baby with advanced congenital hypothyroidism. Look at the face, gross facial dysmorphism, big tongue, coarse facial feature, hair, pot belly, umbilical hernia, dry skin. All of them are very obvious, and they're typical picture of a baby developing cretinism. How do you investigate these children? I said that there are cases of primary hypothyroidism in which the defect lies in the thyroid gland, and there are cases in which there is secondary or central hypothyroidism as a result of defect lying in the pituitary or hypothalamus. Normal hormonal values should be remembered by all, although most labs would give you these values. T4, the free T4 levels usually ranges between 9 to 16 picomole per liter, and each lab has its own value, and the normal TSH value is usually between 0.4 to 7 micro international unit per liter. So in primary hypothyroidism, essentially T4 will be low and TSH will be very high. In secondary or central hypothyroidism, T4 will be low, but TSH will be low. We also should do the radiologic studies in these patients who are hypothyroid, because thyroid hormone typically affects the bone age and the bone growth. So the bone development is markedly affected by hypothyroid state. So if there is hypothyroidism, in that case, children manifest absence of the epiphyseal formation. The distal epiphyses, they are absent. The skull shows large fontanelle, wide suture. The height is affected. The epiphysis itself shows very stippling because the bone formation is markedly affected, and sometimes you find beaking of these 12th thoracic vertebra or the first or second lumbar vertebra. So radiologic studies, especially involving the growing end of bone, is very important in making a diagnosis of hypothyroidism. This is a picture of a young infant who was born and suspected as hypothyroid. On one end is an X-ray of the legs showing knee and ankle. Normally at birth, there is an epiphysis of the lower end of femur and upper end of tibia at birth. And on the one hand, you find epiphysis present, which is the normal X-ray. In the second X-ray, you find that there is no epiphysis in the lower end of femur or the upper end of tibia. So that baby is most likely hypothyroid. It's a quick way to make a diagnosis. So what's the treatment? The principle of treatment is that we should begin immediately, because the treatment delay would lead to a state of hypothyroidism, and if it persists longer, it would cause lifelong mental retardation and a low IQ, which cannot be recovered by starting treatment late. This treatment has to be lifelong. The treatment is very simple. We have tablets available. L-thyroxine tablets are available with a dose of 50 microgram per tablet, which is equal to 0.05 milligram per tablet. They are available cheap, and for young children, young infants, we usually crush the tablets and then mix it in water or milk and then give it before meals, half an hour meal, because of better absorption. This treatment should not be stopped at any cost. However, in certain conditions in which there is transient hypothyroidism, in some selected cases, we re-evaluate the child at 3 years of age. So we continue same treatment for 3 years. Then at 3 years, we give them a drug-free trial. We stop the drug for 1 to 2 months and repeat the hormone level. If the patient again becomes hypothyroid and the lab report shows raised TSH, low T4, then this condition is permanent and lifelong. In that case, we continue thyroid replacement therapy on lifelong basis. but in certain small group of patient, even when you stop thyroid treatment, the patient thyroid level taken after at least 1 to 2 months of thyroid free period, it remains normal. It shows that this patient was having transient hypothyroidism and now he can live without thyroid replacement. In that case, we stop thyroid therapy in that case, but not before 3 years of life. So, we have just learned when there is low T4, raised TSH, this is basically a case of primary hypothyroidism on congenital basis, and we give them thyroxine tablet as soon as the diagnosis is made. The dose is quite high. We use in the newborn period a dose as high as 15 microgram per kg per day, which means for a 3 kilo baby, this amounts to almost 1 tablet daily. So this tablet can be crushed as a single dose before taking any meals or any milk intake. This is a treatment we start and we continue, and then we follow these children. Now this follow up is done, so every month we need to repeat the T4 TSH level in the first 6 months of life, because a very rapid period of growth, so we may have to increase or decrease the dose according to the hormone levels. From 6 months to 2 years, we do the blood levels every 3 months. Beyond 2 years, every 6 month level. So whenever we start thyroxine treatment, so within 1 to 2 weeks time, the thyroid T4 level rises to normal, but TSH level will take at least 4 to 5 weeks to normalize. But please remember, we should not overtreat children. As the patient advances in age, the initial dose was 15 microgram per kg per day, but then gradually reduced to 10 to 5 to 2. The adults, they usually take dose around 2 micrograms per kg per day. But if we overtreat these children, this may end up with early fusion of skull bones, a condition called craniosynostosis, and sometimes these children become extremely irritable, fussy, and they have a temperament problems. So that indicates the patient is being overtreated. We follow up these children regularly every 3 to 6 months, in which we monitor their growth like height, weight, like dental eruption, which is all thyroid dependent. We plot these patients' growth like height and weight on percentile charts, draw a line. We do the routine bone x-rays for the bone age. We compare with the previous finding. We assess their mental and cognitive development, IQ testing, which gradually starts improving. We do the hearing assessment, but please remember, this treatment has to be lifelong and should not be stopped. Now come to the screening part. Screening means that we try to find out a healthy population for possible chances of developing a condition which can be metabolic and which can be diagnosed by blood tests before the patient has developed clinical signs and symptoms. It is a fact that 95% of newborns or more than that who are hypothyroid, they are asymptomatic at birth. They are asymptomatic. So if you wait for the signs and symptoms to develop, it may take 2 to 6 months. So making a diagnosis 6 months of life is fraught with so many hazards because this patient has been hypothyroid for 6 months. So his brain development, intellectual development has been severely compromised for that long period. So even when you start treatment at 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, you will never be able to reach the same level of intelligence and brain development even if he was euthyroid. So remember that it is preventable mental retardation, and if not treated properly, not diagnosed properly, not immediately at birth, it leads to lifelong mental retardation. So there always a room for screening in the newborn period, in the first 15 days of life, for early diagnosis and treatment. Very simple. Around third to fifth day of life, from the heel prick, just one drop of blood is taken, dried on litmus on a filter paper, and then with patient identification tag is sent to a referral lab. This is to be done in all live births, whether preterm, term, all hospital, all maternities, all places of birth. You should know this fact that the babies soon after birth, from second to fifth day of life, should have a thyroid hormone level testing. Is a capillary blood from the heel prick. Now, there are three different methods in use. One is when we use the TSH estimation. Second, we use T4 estimation. Third, we take the blood samples for analysis of both T4 and TSH. So different countries have different methodology. Each has its own plus and minus point. Of course, if when the report comes, then this patient is immediately investigated. He is approached by a team from the health department, which then proceed to the complete venous sampling and estimation of complete thyroid profile from a standard lab, and then to start the treatment. But all things should have been done within first 2 weeks' time. Another entity is called acquired or juvenile hypothyroidism, in which the disease does not start in newborn age group, but the disease starts afterwards, maybe at 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, especially the girls. So, mother bring their children for the complaint of that the child is not gaining adequate height, the linear growth is affected, or sometimes the dentition is delayed, like the permanent dentition is not coming, height is on the smaller side, the patient is gaining a lot of weight, become obese, the patient is having poor school performance, the patient has coarse facial features with a dry skin, dry hair, easily falling hair, pluckable, with a hoarse voice, develop constipation of varying degree, has a muscle weakness, has developed mixed edema features, and in young adolescent girls with delayed puberty and menstrual irregularities, and some of them are having goiter as well. So all these are features of when you suspect a young juvenile patient as having hypothyroidism. But that would be acquired from various secondary causes. This is a young girl. You can see to it that on the one hand, she is, before the diagnosis was made, she has got a short stature, obesity, lot of weight gain, and skin having a mixed edema feature, and the hair which are dry, right? And then you see the growth chart. The growth chart shows that around 8 years, 8 to 10 years of life, her growth chart shows marked deviation downwards. when she developed these symptoms, and then she was diagnosed, and then the treatment was started, and then her growth started, and she started gaining weight and height. So your suspicion and immediate testing for the hormone level is very important. Well, what's the take-home message? We have studied the patient that we discussed at the beginning. He was a patient having congenital hypothyroidism. He was diagnosed at the age of around 1 month by doing hormone testing, by doing the X-ray of the lower end of femur and upper end of tibia around the knee joint for the bone growth, and the hormone levels were done, diagnosed as hypothyroidism, treatment was started, a regular follow-up was ensured, and then she is having now a well-grown young child. So the take-home message would be that all newborns of mothers having a thyroid disease should be evaluated for thyroid dysfunction. We must suspect and we must do the thyroid hormone level in these cases. These should be followed up and then treated if necessary. There should be compulsory screening of all newborn live births without any miss or error. All patients having congenital hypothyroidism should be promptly screened and adequately treated because we want to prevent mental retardation. Yes, we can achieve height, weight, and reversal of all clinical features of hypothyroidism, but mental retardation would be a lifelong misery which cannot be reversed. And of course, the patient education and the compliance to treatment in the follow-up is very important because this is a lifelong treatment, and if you stop the treatment, the disease may recur, they come back. So the slogan should be early treatment, excellent recovery. This is the baby diagnosed as hypothyroidism in the very young age, received proper treatment, and now he's here to say thank you very much for your prompt attention and treatment. Thank you very much for your kind listening.